The National Veteran Business Development Council can help you through the process of getting your business certified as a veteran-owned business. Coming up next on Veteran on the Move.
Welcome to Veteran on the Move. If you're a veteran in transition, an entrepreneur wannabe, or someone still stuck in that job trying to escape, this podcast is dedicated to your success. And now, your host, Joe Crane.
The top 7 paths to freedom is my free gift to you for listening to the show, featuring 7 great ways for a veteran to take their first step into the exciting world of entrepreneurship. To receive your free gift, go to veteranonthemove.com, or if you're listening on a mobile device, you can text the word veteran to 38470. Army veteran Keith King's 35 years of volunteer efforts on behalf of his fellow veterans has been fueled by his belief that he was one of the lucky ones who survived his tour in Vietnam and made it home. Success in his personal and business life has allowed him to exercise the passion he has to help those who are not as fortunate. Through the years, Keith has taken on a variety of leadership roles on the national, state, and local levels with the same purpose of helping his brother and sister veterans in whichever capacity he served or the task required. He is committed to helping today's veterans as they transition out of the military and back into American society. All right, Keith King, welcome to Veteran on the Move. Thanks for being here today. Before we get to talking about business and entrepreneurship, can you take us back and tell us about your experience, what you did in the Army in Vietnam?
Well, in Vietnam, I ended up as a gunner, M60 machine gunner for 8.5 months. It was what we call a combat support unit. Basically, I was a military policeman who escorted convoys, but the convoys we escorted were basically with ammunition. So we were a very high priority target. And after gunning for 8.5 months and sustaining a second injury, I had a chance to kind of go back into my unit and basically spend the rest of my time until I got out and sent home. So I getting home was an interesting experience in the sense that Vietnam veterans were not welcomed in any sense of the word. And frankly, most of us, or a lot of us anyways, were told, do not wear your uniform, take it off, change it into civilian clothes when you travel. And that's exactly what I did. So coming home was pretty much an individual experience. And I learned very quickly that being a veteran, and particularly a Vietnam veteran during that time period, was actually detrimental to my career. And I took it off my resume, didn't talk about it. And I mean, virtually no one other than my immediate family knew I was a veteran, probably for the first 10 years I was home.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's certainly not the first time we've heard that, but, to hear it firsthand from somebody that personally experienced it, just absolutely amazing the times and the culture and climate that existed at that time. So how did you work through it? I mean, what did you end up getting a regular job eventually as you worked your way back into civilian society?
Yeah, something that I had really in high school was the bug, if you will, to be a DJ, work in radio, work in the broadcast industry. And it's something that I went to school for, and I eventually made it into radio in the early 70s and spent a couple of years on the air and doing different production and voice and talent and all of that stuff. And then my boss asked me if I could sell. And I told him I've never sold anything in my life. And he said, well, take this material home, read it, come back and give me a presentation. And after a little bit, I started selling advertising for the radio station on a part-time basis. And I don't know, it took me about 6 months, and I realized that, one, I could make a lot more money in sales than I could on the air. And secondly, my wife was pregnant with our second child, and I thought, well, it would be important to try to get something stable financially. So I went to sales full time. I guess I kind of found my niche because it took about a year and a half. I was not only the number one biller at the station, but I got promoted pretty quickly, became the national sales manager, and then landed a job at the largest radio station in the market, and progressed very quickly through the sales ranks there as well. So I spent the first 20 years of my career in radio and television, most of that with ABC and CBS. But again, most of the time, no one knew that I was a veteran. So when those issues did come up about me being a vet, particularly if they found out I was a Vietnam vet, and it even got beyond that, being a combat veteran, particularly because of the way we were portrayed in the media, drug crazed baby killers and all the crap that we've heard about Vietnam vets, that became very difficult. And frankly, it was one of the things that prompted me to look at starting my own business. And I did that after, about 10 years in the business. I went into my own business. That lasted for a couple of years. And then I went back into the media business. So in between my companies and the media career, I spent basically the first 20 years in broadcasting.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've always thought that a sales job, a really good sales job, or being a salesman is about as close as you can get to being an entrepreneur without actually being an entrepreneur. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It teaches you and it trains you not only to understand your product, how to present that product, but frankly, it hones your skills in the sense of being able to primarily, be a income generator. My job was to generate revenue, and I got pretty good at it. So the transition, my first company actually was doing consulting work and training radio and TV stations around the country. And one of my stations that I trained offered me a full-time sales manager's job. So at the time, it seemed a good thing for me to do and help stabilize my income a second time. And did that job and thought, well, I want to go back and start my own business. So I started my second business. And that job lasted for a good couple of years as well. And I thought, well, okay, I need some money. I need to get stable again. Let's go back in. So I ended up actually moving out of the broadcast side of the business over to the advertising agency business. So I'd always felt comfortable in the sense of writing and creating advertising. And I was lucky enough, I guess, or good enough that my client said, hey, we like what you do. So I started working with another ad agency, learned that business, and then started what I call now my third business, which I've been running now for the last 19, 20 years.
And so you're still running that business today?
No. What I did is I put my personal company on hiatus 4 years ago to start the National Veteran Business Development Council. And, I've been, even though the company does exist, I don't have any clients and I'm not working in that business. I spend my time full time working on helping my fellow veterans.
So after all this time, you actually kind of shoved your entrepreneurial gem aside to start the National Veteran Business Development Council.
In some ways.
How come?
Well, I guess I'd look at it this way. I've been lucky enough, good enough, whatever terms you want. I call it, I've been blessed with having, a good life in the sense of I've been married to my wife now 45, going on 46 years, 2 beautiful kids, 7 grandkids. I joke, that's the only stable part of my life. But I've been fairly successful in my business and my business career. And so I got to a point to where I was able to look and say, I have been given this opportunity to work with major corporations to help develop a program that would allow veteran businesses the opportunity to work with these corporations. And that is something that, again, it's because I could, or, it was an opportunity that was presented to me. And frankly, the corporations who said to us, look, go and put this program together. And if you do it and meet our standards, and you meet our standards, we will help you. And those companies have lived up, to that promise.
All right, Keith, hold on there just a second. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Have you joined the Veteran on the Move Facebook group? I personally invite every guest that I have on the podcast to join the group. So the Veteran on the Move Facebook group is a great way to connect with previous podcast guests. Our Facebook group will keep you in touch with other veterans that are transitioning to entrepreneurship, and you will also get great updates and free guides on the people, programs, and resources that will help you in your transition to entrepreneurship. All right, we're back talking with Keith King from the National Veteran Business Development Council. Hey, Keith, before the break, you were starting to get into talk about the NVBDC and working with major corporations. What is it that a veteran business owner needs to know about becoming veteran business owner certified?
Well, I think number one is that the standards for corporations is completely different than what doing business with the federal government is. The issue that we run into all the time is, hey, the VA does a certification. The fact is they don't. They don't even call it certification. They call it verification. And they verify the status. And the issue becomes, if you want to do business with the federal government, that is a whole skill set. I spent 14 years doing federal contracting. I got pretty good at this. And the fact of the matter is that's a completely different skill set. You have to know how to do the bids and find the bids, respond to the bids, all the stuff that you need to do to be successful in that market. Well, if you back up for a minute and look at that market of the federal government, at 3% spend, that's worth about $15 billion for veterans and disabled veteran businesses. But if you take that same 3% and look at corporate America, that 3% equates to about $80 billion. So you can chase 15 or you can chase 80. And the fact of the matter is that the corporations said, look, we have very specific certification standards that has been adopted and accepted with all the corporations. And we are, for 40 years, we have accepted that standard with the minority-owned businesses, 25 years with the women-owned businesses. And if the veterans are going to join with the women and the minority in what is called diversity spend, they have to have a certification that meets those standards. And that's exactly what we did. Basically 2013, myself, Brigadier General Dick Miller, who was a commander of our troops in Afghanistan, he and I, as well as a couple of our other members of the NVBDC, took that entire year. And again, I freely acknowledge that the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Council and the Great Lakes WeBank groups were our mentors. I joke about it. They took pity on us and said, yeah, come on, we'll teach you veterans. Well, thank God that they did, because what we did is we learned what those corporate standards were. We created a program that met all of those, in some cases exceeded those standards, and rolled that out in April of 2014. Once we presented the credentials of the 3 veteran businesses that we had selected that we felt met those standards and presented that to the corporations who were at that meeting, they all said, okay, you got it. Go build this and we'll help you. And that included Ford and Chrysler and Kellogg's and General Motors. And, and frankly, there were other government agencies involved. And there was 14 different corporations. But that's exactly what we've now done. And because our standards have been accepted by these corporations, we now have, 50 or 60 corporations that have specifically said, yes, the NVBDC meets our corporate standards for certification of veterans. But here's the kicker. What they're now saying and we're now doing is they have said, okay, we are going to begin to track and count and follow the veteran spend, if you will. And we will add that to our diversity numbers, just as if it was a woman business or a minority business. And the veteran businesses are now being elevated to that same standard. What that's done is it's changed the marketplace from, okay, we may or may not capture veterans, or we may or may not include veterans, or you know what, yeah, we all love veterans, but well, the but is now being removed, and it's saying, hey, we have a program, we accept it, we are now going to include veterans. And I think that's the major point. Veterans have to understand at this particular point that we have been invited by corporate America to actively pursue contracts with them if they're certified. And the term, I guess, at this point of self-certification is really becoming unacceptable. It really is. The corporations are now demanding that you must be certified. So I think you got a change going on here, Joe, that the veteran businesses need to understand that if they want to work with these kind of corporations, they are going to have to meet these very stringent guidelines and required certification.
All right, Keith. So if I'm a veteran-owned business and I want to get certified, either just veteran-owned, disabled, and all the other different categories of veteran-owned businesses out there, and I come to the NVBDC, what's going to happen?
Well, you'll go online. We have created a completely automated system, and you will go through the registration process. There is a fee, and the fee is based upon your revenue. So if you're under $1 million, it's only $500. Frankly, my treasurer has looked at our business plan and go, you're not very good at this, are you? And I said, why? He's like, because we're losing money at all the 500s that we certify. I said, but what we're trying to do is help our veterans, and we'll absorb that, because as you go up in revenue, obviously the fee goes up. But we max out at 5,000 if you're over $100 million company. And, so we looked at that as competitively and as supportively as we could be for our veteran businesses. And frankly, the corporations have been kind enough to understand that. And in many ways, the corporations help subsidize our veteran certification fees. Otherwise, we would be able to do it at $500. But the fact is they're going to pay for it. They need to submit their documents and go through this process. We'll pull their records, confirm their veteran status, all the things that we do. And then at the end of it, we will schedule what we call an on-site visit. Every veteran business is required to have an on-site visit, and we're going to come in and sit down in your office, and we're going to go through things and basically confirm everything that you've said to us is as true as we can possibly make it. So it is a very thorough process, but once you're certified, that is what we call opening the door to the access of these corporations. And I have to tell you, I am so thrilled with how our corporations have accepted us. It's not something, as we talked about with coming home from Vietnam, I would never use the word goodwill and veteran in the same sentence when we talk about Vietnam. But right now, we do have that goodwill, and the corporations want to help, and they want to hire veteran businesses, but they need to make sure that they're not a fake or a front or what we call rent a vet, because unfortunately, there is story after story of, somebody, chasing the money, and there are just people who are unscrupulous. Like, Joe, you and I, and anybody who's a veteran know about stolen valor. Well, in this case, it's stolen money. They fake the fact that they're a veteran and set up these fronts. But we make sure to the best of our ability that can't happen with our certification program. And that's why the corporations have not only accepted us, but accept this fact that they've given goodwill and they want to help us, they want to hire us. Just get certified first.
So if a veteran uses you to get certified, how is it known by the companies that may hire them as a subcontractor or something for a government contract? How is it known by the companies that they actually are certified with your help versus to go through the process on their own or somebody else?
Well, the news is that nobody else is really doing the certification to the way we are. But let me get past that and answer your question. First off, we have a database of every veteran who is certified. Every certified veteran gets a certificate that is dated with a certificate number. That database is made available to every one of our sponsors. They can come in and check it. We have a whole program for our veterans where we give them what we call a badge. That we ask them and encourage them to put it in their materials on their website, on any of their marketing material showing that they are either service disabled or veteran owned, that they're certified by us. And frankly, we have a lot of marketing activities in events. Like we have an event coming up in November where we'll probably have 35 to 40 of the largest corporations in America in for 2 days to meet with our veteran businesses. Obviously, if you're certified, you're invited. We do invite non-certified veterans as well, because we want them to come in and see just exactly what we're doing. But frankly, one of the things that we really enjoy, and we probably are doing this now once a week, is our corporations, those that have already accepted us, will send us a list saying, Keith, I'm looking for veteran-owned businesses that do X. And we'll actually send that out to all of our veterans saying, hey, if you do this job, get a hold of whatever company, is asking for it. We are actively involved. One of the other things that we do is a lot of our corporations are now holding their own events, their own supplier events, and will come to us and say, hey, please put this out to your veterans. We would like them to come to our events. I was at a General Motors event yesterday. So this is the kind of thing where there's a whole big world out here that we're trying to make sure that the veterans and the people, Joe, hopefully who hear this program will understand there is a whole great opportunity out here, and it's because of the goodwill of these corporations.
Well, Keith, one thing comes to mind. I know a lot of veteran business owners, and a lot of them, they don't ever, a lot of us, when you get out of the military, like, I'm not doing government contract. I just want to get away from it and go into the real world and just be away from it. I don't want to rely on government contracts or whatever, that kind of mentality, whatever it may be, or whatever it is they're doing. They don't envision in their own mind ever that the government would ever need their services, because maybe they're doing something that they've never seen. They just can't imagine, well, I'm doing this kind of business or that kind of business. There's no government contracts for that. So a lot of veteran business owners, like even including myself, they're not going to bother going through the certification process and doing all that because they're not really in pursuit of government contracts. They're in a different industry or doing something different.
Well, that's why I created the NVBDC, because we said, look, don't come to us for government, come to us for commercial. Think of Procter & Gamble, think of Johnson & Johnson, Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, AT&T, Microsoft, Google, on and on and on. You think of all of these corporations, and what do they buy? I mean, one of the things I found really fascinating, Joe, right now I have an open to buy for any veteran farmer. I've got a list of products that these corporations want to buy. I'm having trouble finding veteran farmers. We actually have, I can't think of anything that you couldn't make or sell that one of our corporations probably would want to buy. I mean, we looked at this market, and it's just astounding. The stuff that, these corporations, from raw materials, one of our largest, veteran businesses, worked in polymers. Well, okay, who's buying polymers? Well, all the cars, all the dashboards, all the things that you look at, it's just incredible. I mean, no, I think that, you're absolutely right, Joe, about the federal government. We really look at it as two separate markets. The federal government is its own market. What we call the commercial industry is the other market. And that's why we created the NVBDC, is to work with the commercial markets and all the industry, if you will. And they're buying everything. We're still the largest manufacturing and production, country in the world. And there isn't much that we don't make, and that means there's a whole lot of stuff we need to buy.
And what is it that the corporations are getting out of buying product from veteran-owned companies?
Well, there's a combination of things. There is federal law that says if you're doing contracting with the federal government and you're what is called a prime, you are to submit a subcontracting program, including small businesses for women, minorities, and veterans. So a lot of the corporations who are, in fact, doing huge multi-million, billion-dollar contracts with the federal government are required to include veterans in their subcontracting plans. That's number one. Number two, the goodwill, which we talk about because, again, they want to be good corporate citizens and they want to help our veterans. But number three, and this is the one that I think most of us really being veterans, look at your own personal background. You have knowledge and skills that very few people are ever going to have. And one of the conversations that I've had with the tech companies is think about drones. We being military, we being the veterans, we build them, we fly them, we know them better than anybody in the world. And what does that have to apply for industry? Well, look at the autonomous vehicles. Look at what the impact of where that's going. Well, they know that these guys have that skill. Look at cybersecurity. The military has the highest level of cybersecurity in the world. Now, those guys coming out and have those specialized skills are in huge demand. In fact, I can tell you that because of the interaction between the tech companies and the automotive industries, both headed in the sense of the autonomous vehicles and all the things that are going, these guys are fighting over them. I mean, if you have these skills, I want to talk to you today because I'm thinking maybe I'm the dummy and I got to reopen my business because, you look at the opportunity out here. It's just absolutely incredible. And they know that.
Right, Keith. So there's something that I think I've got it, but I'm trying to clarify this. As a veteran-owned business, you might be producing something that maybe the government doesn't necessarily need or need it within a contract. But a large corporation who does a lot of government contracting might want to buy that stuff from you and use it for their own purpose or put it out on the market some other way. Not even anything to do with a government contract per se, but because the larger corporation does a lot of work with the government, they either have to satisfy certain requirements by doing a certain amount of buy from veteran-owned businesses, or at the very minimum, they at least want to look good. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. And I think, again, in a sense of look good, I mean, just look at your commercials today. How many commercials there are saying that, they help veterans, they support veterans, they're in business, I mean, to help and work and support veterans. If you look at the veteran marketplace, let me give you a different picture of it. There's 22 million veterans in America. Assuming that there are, each veteran connects with 4 people, your wife and 2 kids or mom and dad or whatever. I mean, all of a sudden you're at 88 million of direct influences in veterans. I mean, we're a huge, massive market. And if you look at our age, in the sense of, I joke about, I'm one of the old guys in the sense of being a Vietnam vet. Part of that whole baby boom and generation. But if you look at all the younger vets coming along, we're a pretty powerful market. And they understand both the economic and the social impact that veterans have in this country. And so they're pretty smart marketers. They're not out spending millions of dollars advertising, that they love veterans and want to help and work with veterans for, just because they're good people. They're doing it because they understand we are a very large and valuable market.
It almost seems that if you're a veteran-owned company, and depending on what your business is, if you're a veteran-owned certified company and you're fairly flexible, like maybe you make a lot of different kinds of products or something, you could almost go in and find out what either the government or these large corporations that are doing business with the government, find out what they're looking for and actually create it, even though you might not be creating it from the beginning. You might not be creating it from the beginning, but when you know there's a demand for, the one example you used was veteran-owned farmers. If you know there's a demand for something like that, then you can make yourself into that, in a short amount of time, depending on maybe what it would be. Do you find any veteran companies out there that actually do that? They're like, okay, I'm over here making product A and I'm just selling it, doing okay. Oh, there's a huge demand for product B. I didn't realize that. And I'm a certified veteran-owned company. Do you have guys pivoting off of that information?
I had that conversation 3 times yesterday with veterans who walked up to me at the GM event. And they said, hey, we're doing X. And I said, yeah. And they said, yeah, but I read your email. Yeah. Well, they wanted Y. Yeah. Well, I can switch, and get into doing that. And I said, look, if it's in your company and there's nothing changed in your company, that's fine. You're just changing, what your product mix is. Of course, we can do that. The other issues, of course, it comes into what you're saying, Joe, but you're right, spot on. That's the fun of being an entrepreneur. One of my friends, I call him a serial entrepreneur. I don't even know how many companies he's had, 8, 9, 10, 12. It's like every time I turn around, this guy's got a new company. But, it's those kind of things that is, a fun part of being an entrepreneur is that, you see something and you can pursue it. And again, because the market is flexible, who would have talked about autonomous vehicles, driverless cars? We're talking Jetson stuff,
Yeah.
but, it's knocking on the door today. So, yeah, if you're an entrepreneur and you see an opportunity, the corporations are at least willing to give you an opportunity. And that's what we talk about with our certification, access. Think about it. I'm about to host an event in November where I'm going to have 35 to 40 of the largest corporations in the world in one room at one time who actually want to talk to you. We started this about being in sales. When ever in your life in a sales opportunity you ever walked in and you had 40 prospects sitting in a room who actually want to talk to you? You want to talk about access.
Yeah, no kidding.
One of my guys, I'm always careful with this stuff because we always confirm our success stories. Last year, met with one of our companies at that exact event, and basically a week later had a $7.8 million contract because they happened to provide a specific service that corporation was looking for. And the fact that he was certified by us and that corporation had already named us as their certification body was the icing on the cake. That's what we do. That's why that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, that's powerful. Hey, Keith, Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end of our time.
Okay,
I want to give you a chance to put out your contact information. So if someone out there listening is a veteran business owner, they're getting ready to get out and do through a transition, looking to get into entrepreneurship, and they wanted to utilize the National Veteran Business Development Council services to become a certified veteran-owned business, how would they find you and how would they go about that?
Well, thank you, Joe. And again, please just go to our website, again, www.nvbdc.org. Make sure it's .org, not .com. You will find everything you need on site. We have an email there in case, you need some help, support at nvbdc.org. Our staff is set up basically to help you become certified. And I do want to emphasize that we have working relationships with a lot of different organizations. So if you're brand new and you really need help in getting set up, we will refer you to several different organizations around the country that can help you get your company set up. What we tell people is, hey, get your company set up, get your paperwork, get everything you need ready to go. And once you're up and running, then come to us to get certified. And, we are kind of like, after all the training and all the other things that you go through, getting your business plan, once you're ready to roll, then get a hold of us and we'll help you get the certification to us. That's your next step in your life of your business. If you've been up and running, the one point I want to make is that we certify all sizes of business, and we certify both service disabled and veteran owned. So if you're a large company, we do this every day where people say, well, I can't be certified by the VA because by law they can only certify small business and I'm a large business. I can tell you, not only do we certify large, we certified our first large 400 million about 2.5, 3 years ago. The largest one we have is just under $1 billion a year. So if you're a large business and you're catching this message, we can certify you as well.
That's great, Keith. All right. I wish we could talk for a couple more hours about this stuff because, it's there's definitely a massive amount of opportunity in what you guys are doing and what's available out there. And you guys are providing a phenomenal conduit for veteran-owned businesses to tap into that. So thanks for sharing that information, Keith.
Thank you,
I really appreciate you telling your story. And we look forward to hearing you out and about in the entrepreneurial world, and looking forward to the more success stories with helping veteran businesses out there.
Well, appreciate it. Let me know and shoot you an invite to our event and maybe come out and do a live broadcast from one of our events.
Hey, that'd be awesome. Love that. Appreciate it.
All right. Talk soon.
All right. These two veterans are Oscar Mike. As you can tell from listening to the Veteran on the Move podcast, interviews are a great way to tell your story and spread the word about your business. If you would like to get booked as a podcast guest, I recommend Interview Valet. You can check out Interview Valet at veteranonthemove.com/valet. Be sure to check out Thrive15.com, the world's premier online education platform that helps entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs learn how to start or grow a successful business. Start your free 30-day membership by going to Thrive15.com and use the promo code VETERAN. Thank you for listening to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews are always greatly appreciated. So until next time, this veteran is Oscar Mike.